Hi everybody, this is Dan Marson from the coase-sandor Institute, and I wanted to take about 10 minutes to go through a second web scraping video. Some elements of this a little bit more complicated than the SEC scraping, or USSC scraping, sorry, this is the SEC scraping. Some elements a little bit more complicated, some less complicated, and some things that we want to look through and try to take advantage of in the way that the SEC sets up their website. So what I want to do here is show you how to get information off the SEC website archive of 10Ks. There's a few different ways to do this, as with all things in programming. This is the way that I picked, not necessarily better or worse than any other way. But it turns out that the SEC keeps a database of 10Ks on its website, and if you go to this website and you say something like Q1 2000, or let's do 1997. Go to this website and it gives us all companies that filed any form in 1997 Q1, and it gives us a link, or at least the end of a link, to that company's form on the SEC website. And so it leads off with www.sec.gov/archives/ and then Edgar. So what we're going to do is, since this website exists for all companies and all forms, what we're going to do is we're going to download each of these files. We're going to find all the ones that have any element of 10K in it, so like 10-K or 10KSB, 10KSBA, amended 10K. We don't want the 10Qs, but that's no problem. We'll avoid them. But here, 10K. We want to go through this file and find all the 10Ks and save those company names, CIK numbers, dates, and file URLs. So I wrote some code here that just uses Beautiful Soup and the HTML, the URL lib request library to find each of those. What I do is I download each of those things, save them, and I read the files and I parse them looking for, like the CIK occurs between columns 74 and 86. The date occurs between columns 86 and 98, and the URL to the 10K occurs between columns 98 and the end. The company name is between columns 0 and 62, etc. So I just go through all those. There's some code here for that. And I write all the ones that are 10K, so anything with 10, an optional space or dash, and lowercase or capital K. And I drop all the things that are NTs. Those are a different kind of form. But sometimes you'll have like a 10K NT or NT 10K, something like that. I drop all those because those aren't actually the relevant forms to what we're looking for. And then what I do is I save each quarter and year to a CSV with the URLs, and then I'm going to loop through all of those, and I'm going to look for the CIK name, form, filing date, etc. So what I have here in this folder is the complete set of all output that I got from running this scraper, and it takes at least a night to run based on how efficiently I've written it. I'm sure you could rewrite it to be more efficient, but of course a lot of temporary files along the way to help me out in debugging are at the bottom. Those aren't important, but I've copied this all over to a new directory, and when I run this code, you're going to see that it's going to start redoing all the downloads and all the files like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of what the files look like. And I'm also going to say, I'm going to change it a little bit. So I'm going to say range 750 : I'm going to pound here. Originally I go through the whole length of the CSV files that I'm going to write. But just for time, I'm going to show you the first. Actually, let's do even less than that. Let's do 250. Just get a lot of data for you. And I'm going to start running that, and it's going to start writing files and downloading files. You're going to see them pop up here. So I'm going to save, F5 to run. Hopefully no errors immediately, but if there are, I'll fix it quickly, but there shouldn't be. Anyway, what it's going to do is it's going to look for, on my operating system, each of those files, these IDX files. So if it can't find the CSV, it's going to, try to download it. Also going to walk you through 2014 market values. So for example here, this CSV is going to give us Abaxis 2014 quarter 2, 7.39 times 10 to the 8th, that's 739 million is the market public float, I mean. And I'm just going to open up one of these documents, show you what it looks like. And they're actually very large, so they take a while to load. And it goes through, whether it's a large accelerated filer, etc. And this one I reveal is a large accelerated filer. And so it looks kind of like that. So what we have here is a very messy text file, which is the source code of their 10K report. And so we have something like public float. We want to say it usually comes up as something like aggregate value, and I'll show you exactly what it looks for. We're going to look for the aggregate market value of the common equity. So is it going to be common? Yeah. So around here we're going to look for, the phrase held by non-affiliates. That is the one common thread in all these statements about the public float. It is going to be state the aggregate market value held by non-affiliates. So if I look here for held by non-affiliates, and of course it's going to be very slow because it's a huge file. Here we go. State aggregate market value of voting and non-voting common equity held by non-affiliates, etc., etc. And here they're going to have, at some point, that's 739 million. So actually, you know what? We're at the very end. This isn't the one I want. Here we go. This is the back at the top. You see over here, we're back at the top. It's one of the first things that shows up in the document. The aggregate market value of the voting stock held by non-affiliates of Abaxis as of September 30th, 2013 was 739,283,000. And 4 million shares held by persons who hold more than 10%. Not important for us. It's just not what we were looking for in this project. And then what we also want to know is, are we a large accelerated filer? And it says here, indicate whether the registrant is one of the following: large accelerated filer, non-accelerated filer, smaller reporting company, or smaller reporting company accelerated. And so what they have is usually some kind of, and actually again here we're at the end, so they put this down twice. Here we go. Indicate by checkmark whether the registrant is a large accelerated filer, accelerated, non-accelerated, or smaller reporting company. And what they do is they have these check boxes. So you see they have large accelerated filer, and then they say put in wingdings an X, then an O, an O, and an O. And I wrote some code that's going to parse that. And it's down here at the bottom, and it tries to be, generic enough that things will work, but it's going to look for, basically, look for large accelerated filer, look for accelerated filer, look for non-accelerated, and look for smaller reporting company. And if there's something between, like the check one, so, it ends with normal, so here it ends with check 1 colon, and then after the colon, I actually delete all these HTML tags and I look for the next bit of text. And if the next bit of text is large accelerated filer or non-accelerated filer or smaller reporting company, I then look for what comes between each of the category names. So between the category names, I have an X, then I have an O, then I have an O, then I have an O. And then if there had been something, so sometimes they check the box before the name. So I actually look for, does the next word of text after this check 1 colon, is that one of the category names, or is it something else like an X or an O? Well then, if it's something like an X or an O, then I look for the category check box before the name of the category. And so that's how it works. And you'll see here in, I actually closed it, but if we go to the Dropbox SEC, and then down to screencast, you'll see here we're filling in a lot of these things, and say like, 2014-1 market values. Of course, we didn't pull one from 2014-1. I wonder how we're doing on yeah, so we're still in the middle of 2014 quarter 2. It takes about, let's see, it took 3 minutes for us to get from quarter 1 to quarter 2 here just to read the file, and that was doing 250 lines. So let's see, it's 11:46 now. It should be done in a minute, more or less. But you can see, you know, I have it checking to see which type of filer it is. And there's actually two ways I'm doing it. One is if it's different, like if one is different from the other three. So here, you know, we have this wingdings, A with a hat and 2 dots coming up in 3 of the categories, and then the fourth one has an X, so then it's small reporting company. But then I look the other way and I say, you know, what comes after what. And so here you see, if we look at the whole string of text, look after, you know, Rule 12b2 of the Exchange Act, large accelerated filer, non-accelerated small reporting company, we see that there's an X following that. Now, in some cases, they actually get a different number. You get a different category because in some cases it follows, and in other cases it comes before. So here's one where we have large accelerated filer from the one method, but accelerated filer from the other. And if we look here at what the text looks like, let's see. So here it's actually large accelerated filer comes with an X here, and actually the problem here is it's starting to look after 12b2 because there's a misprint here where it's AC space T instead of ACT. So I could add an exception, or I could add a replace statement that says look for anything that's space AC space T period and replace it with space ACT period. And then it would find Exchange Act period, and it would know that nothing comes between that and large accelerated filer. So that's why there's a problem there. Obviously, nothing you write is going to be perfect, and be prepared for any misspelling that anyone could make or typing error in typing up their 10K. So like here with the one method, we have a hat, X, a hat, and dot. So it's not that 3 of them are the same and one is different, but we have non-accelerated filer from the other method. And if we look at this, then sure enough, in this case, the category checkboxes are coming before the category name. So we have a hat, X, and then a hat. So this firm is a non-accelerated filer, and sure enough, that's what my algorithm gets you there. Saying there's some kind of error here. This is probably the same deal, where sure enough, the check boxes are coming before. And also, I programmed into the second method that, you know, a hat is not a check, O is not a check, O is not a check, but X is a check. There's a different one that's like a tilde that is a check, so I've programmed it to look for that. But anyway, it's now moving on to quarter 3. And I keep losing my SEC. Oh no, this is correct. It's just named screencast. That's why I think I've lost it. It's now downloaded chapter 4. And you see if we sort this by date modified, then crawl is at the bottom, and all these things are new. I've also programmed something called last 10K, which will tell you in case of any debugging or if there's an error. You know, it gets like 6,000 10Ks in, but then it crashes. Well, which one did it crash on or after? I have a text file that prints last 10K. Anyway, it's now downloaded and saved these 2014 files. I'm going to run it again for you to show that when we run it again, it's not going to download these 2014-2, 2014-2 reject files. It's just going to take them as given because they're already in the folder. So when before it would say read from web, read from file, complete, it's not even doing that now because those files are already on the system. And you can see it's updating last 10K. It's updating last 10K right now at 11:50, but it's not updating 2014-1 or 2014-1 reject or anything like that. And when it gets to the end of 2014-1, it'll update 2014-1 market values. So hopefully that's helpful. I will post this code online so you can look through it and use it for your benefit. There's a lot in here that maybe you won't have to use, like, you know, debugging things particular to the SEC. But in general, you want to be doing a lot of for loops through a CSV of URLs. That's fine. And what you want to do is, let's see, where do I get to the reading? Okay, I have a try except statement here. we're just going to open the page, and we're going to open sec.gov/archive/ and then this is the part where it's edgar/CIK/ I put here a timeout of 10, and also the thing is, since those things are coming up so early on in the 10K documents, the public float and the categories, and some of these documents can be so long, I set it to read only the first 100,000 characters. This saves a lot of time. If you have something that only comes up in the first 10,000, I mean, this could be set even lower, but I have it at super cautious 100,000 right now. If you have something that comes up even quicker, first 5,000 characters, this would just fly through it. But the problem is, if something comes up after those 5,000, you're not going to catch it. So I hope that's helpful to you guys. I know it's a lot to cover in just a short amount of time, but the code will be posted, and of course you can ask me any questions you have. And again, for those of you who are faculty and don't want to learn how to program, but just want to be made aware of the things that we can do, this is something that takes, I guess, a couple of months if I wasn't working on anything else, but I've actually been working on this project for a very long time, trying to get it reduce the errors as much as possible. I probably had 95% of it done in just a couple months, and the rest of the year that I've been working on it has been brushing up a lot of the errors. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I hope that helps.